Sir Jim Ratcliffe, one of the richest Britons in the world, of course the boss of INEOS and now a major shareholder in Manchester United Football Club, has caused outrage by his comments. So what's he actually said? Well, he said that our population has gone up from 58 million to 70 million, and that with 9 million people of working age on benefits, we don't need mass migration. He said much of the country had been colonised by immigrants. Now that word was a controversial word. And he said, okay, if you don't like the word, we'll tone it down. But just think about this. You ask yourself why public services have diminished. You ask yourself why rents have gone through the roof. The population explosion has done that. And then you look at parts of London, for example, where the road names, the underground signs, aren't just in English, they're in a foreign language as well. 1 million people living in this country don't speak any English at all. 4 million people living in this country barely speak passable English. And that's the point that he was making, that big areas of our towns and cities have been changed into something completely different to what they were, and that it's all making us poorer. And I don't really care if Number 10 is in uproar or if much of mainstream media find his comments too difficult. I believe firmly that Jim Ratcliffe is right. Keen to know what you think.
Well, I wouldn't use that term colonised. I think it's pejorative and suggests there's some kind of huge negativity around the motivations of those people that come here, and I don't think that's the case across the piece. But he is referencing something that is of great concern to millions of people up and down the country, that migration has been too high for too long. When we were in government, we were doing something about that at the tail end of the Conservative government. We've seen those figures coming down as a consequence of our action. But, you know, we do need to be very aware of the impact that migration has, particularly illegal migration, which the government is showing no signs of being able to control.
Investment in Grangemouth is to support jobs in Grangemouth and support vital industries in Scotland and in the UK. But what Jim Ratcliffe said was unacceptable. It was disgusting, frankly, and he should apologise for his remarks. But I'm not going to let what Jim Ratcliffe has said determine the future of jobs in Scotland. It is really important that we invest in our industrial base in Scotland and right across the UK. Look, Jim Ratcliffe can speak for himself, but the comments that he made yesterday were unacceptable. Our country benefits hugely from its diversity. We see that in our businesses, we see that in our universities, we see that in our cultural life, and we are richer because of the diversity of our country. So I would urge him to apologise for his offensive remarks, which have upset a lot of people, and just frankly do not represent I think, the views in modern Britain today?
Well, I think of Manchester United. It's a multicultural club with multicultural supporters. And I think of many people, like my parents, who arrive in this country to contribute, and there is still a place for those people. So the Prime Minister is right. A lot of people will have found that language offensive, wrong. He should apologise.
What would you say to people who have concerns about immigration? Is that wrong?
Well, of course, when you look at small boats and people coming into our country through irregular migration, we've done a lot to continue to bear down on that problem, dealing with the French, investing in returns of people who have no right to be in this country, and I did a lot while I was Foreign Secretary, sanctioning those who exploit people and run those gangs to exploit people, to make that terrible, terrible journey across the channel. So there's lots that we need to do on irregular migration, but let's be clear. We all recognise that there are people with talent who can make a contribution in a regular way to this country, and we continue to support those people and their families. And Britain has always been a tolerant country and a place for those particular individuals.
It's certainly a very big role, very big, and I'm very conscious of that. So there is a lot to take in, a lot to take on. I've been involved at national level in smaller ways. I've been chair of the Department of Social Justice for the Bishops' Conference now for a good few years. National roles in relation to prisons. So I've got some experience of the national scene. So I'm not completely cold to it, but this is of a different order. I think it's deeply, deeply unhelpful for that reason that I've mentioned, that it kind of paints, put it this way, it paints with too broad a brush. And at the end of this is a human person. And we must shine the light on the dignity of that person. I think that's something that the gospel brings, that the church brings into the world, is shining that light on the dignity of every man, every woman. I can understand people's concerns, yeah. And I think legitimate debate, I think obviously every nation, it's the prime task of any government is the protection of its borders, the protection of its people. I wouldn't take away from that in any sense. I mean, certainly my time as Bishop of the Armed Forces, I fully understood the importance of that and the role of our armed forces in that aspect. I think the debate I would like to see is how can we best approach this issue. Having people living in hotels for long periods of time is not ideal. I don't think using unheated or badly heated and bad condition army temporary accommodation in training camps is good either. So there needs to be discussion, but it's about how can we best respond to the needs of these people who are sitting in front of us. That's the level I believe it needs to be at. Well, some people might find that difficult. I mean, we speaking into a debate is fine, but it's the language is unfortunate, and I think that approach that he expressed is a deeply unfortunate one. Could disagree with it wholeheartedly. I suppose there's something in me which is again looking at this at the human level, it's deeply saddening that somebody would think of a fellow human being along those lines. Now another might say, that's disgusting, I'm deeply saddened. Yes, I do. I think that the church is in an important and, I put this, I believe kind of helpful place in this regard, because it's possible for the Catholic community to slightly stand aside from things in a sense and to shine this light into it. And that's a really valuable place to be, so that you can speak into the political space without becoming political. You can speak into the situation of injustice without having to go through the political route. And that gives the church an immense reach, actually.